Yo, welcome back to the Stuff About Money podcast. I am your co-host, Erik Garcia, certified financial planner, and as always, joined by Xavier Angel, certified financial planner. Xavier, before we hop into today's episode, I want to make a couple comments if you're all right with that.
I'm good with that. I think it's needed. Go for
Cool,
it.
appreciate it. First, let me say this. If y'all like what y'all are hearing, go ahead and follow us. You can find us on any of your podcast apps, from Apple Music to Spotify. You can also find us at stuffaboutmoney.com. If you have a question about money, shoot us an email. You can just shoot me an email, Erik, E-R-I-K, at plan-wisely.com. We'd love to maybe even take your question on the air. But we've been having a lot of questions, Xavier, with clients around the stock market. The stock market is down, if y'all haven't noticed, this year. And a lot of the conversations, obviously, people are concerned. That's a very natural emotion when you start to see your net worth and your 401k values just slowly drop. And we often talk about the word risk. Oh, it's risky. And I want to say that actually, I don't think it's risk is the problem. Risk is something that we can actually identify. We can calculate risk. The issue right now is uncertainty. And I think there's a lot of us, we're feeling uncertain about our investments. We're feeling uncertain about our futures. And that uncertainty is what drives that kind of anxious feeling that a lot of us are feeling. So I want to encourage y'all to, if you haven't yet, go listen to a podcast from a couple weeks ago. It's called How Much Stock Market Risk is Just Right with Dr. John Grable. That's a fantastic episode where we talk about risk and uncertainty. But I encourage you to go listen to that. Xavier, what are we talking about today?
Procrastination, Erik, and you know, risk is one of the
Hey,
things
before we
that,
get to our topic, can we talk about something else? Just kidding. This is procrastinating. That was a bad joke.
So to get back into our topic today is procrastination. And, you know, I think risk has a lot of what had me self-reflecting this morning, right? You know, I'm on my way into work this morning. It's raining, a 35, 40-minute drive. I'm pushing an hour coming on in this morning. And I started thinking about procrastination and how it affects everything that we do.
Were you talking to self?
I was.
Yo, Xavier comes into the office every now and then. He's like, look, I was having a conversation with self. I'm like, self? It's like Belle Biv DeVoe, me, myself, and I. I'm like, did I have anything to say in that conversation?
No. Look, I's a different person.
Okay.
So
all right.
Self normally comes to me when I'm having that self-reflection.
All right. So what did self tell you this morning?
Self was telling me we need to sit back and we need to reevaluate some of the things that we do and how we do them.
Now, okay, hold on.
And
you're talking to self here, and you're saying we. Are you talking about like the general we? Or are you talking about we as in you and self?
General.
Okay.
General.
Okay.
Because look, whether it's friends, family, clients, everyone has the same thing, and it's procrastination. So I'm going to start with the story.
Okay.
I've got this client. And back in 2017, 2018, we're having these conversations, and the conversation revolves around when do I start investing? When do I start saving? And the conversation during this time frame was, well, I don't want to put money in the market right now. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until the market comes down. Then I'm going to put the money in, and we'll be able to buy when it's low. And we kept waiting. The market never went down like he wanted it to go down. And then it was too late. Then we had the market shoot up. And we had a nice run in the market. And then he came in and he said, I should have done it back then.
I should have.
And I should have. And we had this conversation. We started a conversation about 2 weeks ago. And it went back to that time period. And he's still kicking himself, because he didn't put money in when he first started thinking about it. And he missed out on an 8 to 10% run in the market. Well, he can't get that back in.
Yeah.
So part of that self-reflection is, why do we procrastinate? Rather than waiting to do it, let's do it now. And if I bring it back into stuff about money we weren't taught in school, then it comes back to dollar cost averaging. if we're looking at this scenario. I think we talked about dollar cost averaging a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, break that down. You're talking about dollar cost.
Okay.
So you share this story about a client who doesn't want to start investing because I guess they're concerned that it's not the right, and I'm doing air quotes for those who are not watching on YouTube, it's not the right time. And then you're talking about dollar cost averaging. So break that down for us.
So dollar cost averaging allows you to put, you're making a contribution into a savings account, an investment account, but you're putting money in at certain periods of time, and let's say monthly. So I know I'm putting money in on the 15th of the month every single month. So I'm capturing both the low points in the market and I'm capturing the high points in the market. I'm not trying to time when to put money in.
Yeah. So essentially what you're saying, and what I love about the strategy of dollar cost averaging specific to investing, is we're kind of removing the emotion from the investing process, right? So like, it's the wrong time to get into the market. Well, it might be the right time. We don't know. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a consistent amount of money on a consistent basis, regardless of what's happening. So we've essentially removed some of the emotion of investing.
Correct. Because emotion is going to cause us to get off a target.
So you're driving down the interstate this morning, sitting in traffic, and you and self start having a conversation, and you're starting to think about procrastinating. And you just share the specific story about this client that procrastinated with their investments. Something I regularly hear from people, tied almost exactly to this, is, gosh, I should have started doing this 20 years ago. I should have started doing this 15 years ago. It's that I should have. And I think once we start saying I should have, I think we're probably guilty of procrastinating.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what self was telling me this morning. Self was telling me to take a step back, and figure out what I need to do, whether it's having an accountability partner.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting with you and coming up with a plan.
So it sounds like, and people, listeners, just so you know this, good advisors engage other advisors for advice and for planning help. It's always good to have a second set of eyes. So anyway, so you're kind of telling the story about self is telling you, and you're saying we, and you're talking about the general we, but it sounds to me like you're working through something there. I'm not gonna. You don't have to share it. You don't have to share exactly what you were reflecting on this morning. But let's talk about kind of in the financial sense, maybe a couple different places that we do procrastinate. You and I, before we hit record, we kind of kicked around some ideas on maybe some places in money that we do procrastinate. This is nowhere near an exhaustive list, but these are maybe three that kind of rose to the top. That they're tapes that I'm hearing over and over. They're scripts that I'm hearing over and over from people right now, not just you and I. But the first one you talked about is we procrastinate investing. We put it off for whatever reason, right? I had a conversation this morning. I was at a board meeting, and this particular individual.
Oh, you mean you?
Go ahead.
They let you on a board?
They did.
They let you sit on a board?
They do. They let me sit on a board. I'm not on the executive board, so I could just, I don't have like any real authority.
Well, you're working your way up there.
I am. And I want to be like you. Xavier sits on like 17 boards.
That's just a tad exaggerated.
Just a little bit, but I'm not too much. So the conversation was about investments, and this individual had multiple non-market investments. So I was talking about those, and they were kind of telling me about those investments and the risks associated with it. And I asked if they had any market investments, and the comment was, the market's a mess right now. I'll probably just sit in cash for 18 months. And I'm not going to suggest that they were procrastinating. That seemed like a very intentional decision on their part. But as you were sharing the dollar cost averaging, man, what a great way. Like, hey, we might be at the bottom. We might not be at the bottom. This might be a great time to get in the market. It might be a terrible time to get in the market. But we don't know. So the best time to start investing is yesterday, probably. So dollar cost averaging again, if you have the right time frame, right? If you need your money, in 6 months, sit in cash. But if you've got 20 years ahead of you.
Right. If you have 20 years ahead of you, then now's the time.
Yeah.
And one of the other conversations that you and I had this morning is, most people think I've got to have money to start investing today. But we threw out that, $50, $100 a month,
but that is,
$3, $4,
that is
whatever.
money. You do have to have money to invest.
Exactly. But most people are thinking those big dollars, right?
Yeah. If I can't invest $10,000, then I shouldn't start.
Right. And something gets you started so that you can get that plan,
yeah.
Whether it's a short-term goal, whether it's a long-term goal, whatever it may be.
Yeah, on that point, you said short-term goal. Another area where we determined that we procrastinate financially is really saving for specific short-term goals. To where, there's been times where thinking, okay, we're going to take a vacation, the family, we're planning this vacation in a year or 2 years. So I'm going to take $200 or $300 a month and just put it aside for that vacation. Never do it. Then you go on the vacation and you realize, man, if I'd have put $200 or $300 a month aside, in 2 years' time, I'd have $5,000 or $6,000, and that vacation. Did I do that math right? Yeah, I did that. $5,000 or $6,000, and that vacation would be paid off before I even go on it. Mm-hmm. I'm not putting it on any credit cards. Then I could do all the cool, fun stuff wherever we're going because I wouldn't be thinking about money. And so we procrastinate maybe planning for those really short term. And short term, we mean anything, let's say under 2 years, right? And we're not even talking about investing. We're just talking about putting money in a boring old savings account specific to a goal.
And you're correct, Erik. One of the things that we've done is sat down as business partners, and we've thought about what short-term goals are for us. We've come up with a plan where we're putting away a dollar amount on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. Now, initially, and this is going to be back to the procrastination piece, there was a 2-month period where I didn't contribute, and I was procrastinating. Mm-hmm. So I kept saying, I'm going to deposit it tomorrow. I'm going to do this tomorrow. And I'd get in the following day and I'd say, you know what? I don't have time right now. I'm going to do it tomorrow. And I think that went on for about 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then Erik knocked on my door and said, hey, look, if we're going to do this, we need to do it. And that's when I said, okay, you know what? Rather than putting it off again, let me do it right now.
Is that why you were talking to Self this morning? I put a
yes.
I put a call into Self and I said, hey, Self, you need to talk to Xavier. All right, so we procrastinate for very specific short-term goals. In this case, you kind of shared an example of us wanting to make a specific investment in the business. And a third way that I'm kind of hearing people procrastinate is making some type of change. It could be a career change or professional change. It's that they're not happy maybe what they're doing, or maybe it's just there's something about it and they procrastinate and they procrastinate and they procrastinate and they wake up like, I'm just really miserable doing this. Obviously, it has a huge impact on finances, because if it's a risky change, because what you got going on is good, then it could impact my finances. That could impact everything that I'm doing. Or it could be a change that's actually positive, but they're just maybe afraid to take hold of it.
Right. And I'll use myself as an example once again this morning. I made a professional change. It was, look, life was great in my previous life prior to 2020. Successful financial advisor, creating and doing financial plans with my clients. And I think for 3 to 5 years, you and I had been talking about merging our financial planning practices. You kept telling me, hey, look, we could do this together.
Yeah.
We could have fun doing it together.
Yeah.
And
we could start a podcast together.
Right. And it took me 3 to 5 years.
It took you a long time.
And to make that decision, to make the move and go independent and merge our practices, it was hard. It was a hard decision. I didn't know where it would land me, but when I looked back over the past 2 years, I'm happy I made it.
That's the decision you made.
Absolutely.
Now, here's what I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand why you're wearing a tie this morning. Y'all got to go check him out on YouTube. He's wearing a tie. I told you once you stop working for that other firm, you never have to wear a tie unless you're at some board meeting, right? So like
I wore a tie for 18 years. I was in a coat and tie every single day.
Yeah.
And then January of 2020, I walk in with a tie, and you tell me, "Hey, relax.
Take that tie off."
I'm with a polo on.
Funny
Polo
story.
jeans.
Funny story. So years and years and years ago, maybe it wasn't that long ago. I don't even know. COVID kind of throws all time off. But like Xavier roped me in to sit on a board on an association in
One of the 17
that he sits on in the financial space. And I would always ask him, "Man, do I have to wear a tie?" He's like, "Yes, put a tie on." Man, so sure enough, I'm off that board because I just don't want to wear a tie if I don't have to, man. I guess, I don't know. Goodness gracious. But you're definitely the best dressed. So procrastinate making professional changes. I was having a conversation with a young business owner recently, and they're in that position. They're not a business owner yet. They kind of have a side hustle, but the business that they're working for, they've kind of hit a ceiling. And they've got an entrepreneurial spirit, and a lot of our conversations have been, "Hey, you're in a position to go do something on your own in the same space. What's holding you back?" We kind of chatted about those things, and I think he's actually been having some conversations here recently about doing his own thing. So sometimes taking that risk is important, making that professional change, because time is something you can't get back. Now, look, there's a time and there's a place to make these changes, right? I've seen situations where I've talked to people and they've got financial obligations and they've got a place, they've got mortgages and a lot of debt, and they got a family they need to provide for. They don't like their job, but it is providing them what they need, and the alternative is not good. And they're just so unhappy with their job, they take the alternative, and there was just no opportunity there. It didn't make any sense. So I think,
Right.
Thinking through those decisions obviously makes sense.
Thinking through and understanding what your situation is. I mean, that's part of where procrastination comes, because we don't know or we don't understand what our current situation is, and we're afraid to make those moves.
So that kind of leads us. It's a good segue. That kind of leads us. We talked about three places where we procrastinate sometimes. In finances, again, I can go on and on and on and on and on about different places and how we procrastinate with money. But we procrastinate. We know that. Everyone listening probably is like, yeah, there's an area in my life where I am procrastinating. You just said this idea of understanding our situation. It's stopping, becoming aware. I appreciate the fact that you spent this morning reflecting and spending time in self-reflection. No, seriously, I think that's a lost art. I don't think enough people stop long enough. We're not still and quiet long enough to take a hard look on the inside and say, hey, what am I not doing? Or in that case, what am I doing that needs to change? Right. So I think that's step one. Step one is saying, hey, let me sit down and understand my situation. Right. In the context of finances, let me sit down and let me gather all of my financial data. Do I need to be saving more? Am I overspending? What's kind of going on? What makes me really uncomfortable? What keeps me up at night? If I could change one thing about my financial situation, what would it be?
Erik, those are really good points that you just mentioned. Collecting that data, getting everything together, and then identifying what's really important to you. What's the goals?
Yeah.
Once we figure that out, now we can come to the table and we can start to create a plan. Figure out what are the steps, what's the strategies for us to get to whatever those goals or whatever is important to you.
Yeah, and let me kind of dive a little deeper in this idea of what's important to you. What are those goals? I would say, I would put it this way: what do you value in this particular context? So in the story that you shared about us saving for a specific goal in the practice, in the business, that we wanted to make an investment, we sat around and said, goodness gracious, we're spending too much time doing X, Y, and Z. We shouldn't be spending our time doing X, Y, and Z, because that's important, but our time is more valuable doing A, B, and C. And that's where we need to be. That's where our focus needs to be. That's what makes us happy. That's what drives us. So therefore, we have to find a solution to do X, Y, and Z for us. And that solution is going to cost us money.
And we sat around the table and we talked about it, and we figured out, okay, we even put together what is a time frame for us to be able to come and get that accomplished.
Well, that's kind of the next step, right? Kind of as we procrastinate, the solution to procrastinating is to actually put a timeline on what you're trying to solve, right? Like here's our problem. What's important to us? This is really important that we're doing X, Y, and Z. All right, so we're going to give us 6 months to start solving this problem. Here's our steps. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4 that we're going to follow.
Right.
Yeah. And then after you kind of written out those steps, right? We start to act on those steps, right?
Correct.
Like if the goal is to save a certain amount of money monthly, then you have to actually act on it and execute it.
Correct.
And then when you don't, it's good to have someone that says, "Hey, Xavier, what's up, man? Go ahead, make that."
And you mentioned earlier, and I'll use us, you mentioned earlier that even financial advisors need a second set of eyes to come back and take a look at it. And, we hold each other accountable.
Mm-hmm.
We have that weekly meeting where we're sitting down and we're looking at where are we? What did we do? Where are you based off of the plan that whether it's you or whether it's both of us have put together. So it's that accountability partner that's allowing us to be able to implement those steps and move forward.
Yeah, let's talk about accountability, because I kind of feel like we're not all over the board here, but in terms of accountability, we've kind of been using a lot of different examples of procrastinating, and I want to tie two of these together as it deals with this idea of accountability. So in your opening story, you talked about a client who didn't want to invest because it was the wrong time. The particular accountability there was, you tried to be accountable or hold him accountable as an advisor, but they didn't listen to you.
Correct.
But a good way to keep us accountable in the investment space, you mentioned, is dollar cost averaging. Hey, I'm going to automate this. I don't want to think about it. Let me remove emotion from this decision completely. So automation is a really good form of accountability. All right. And that kind of helps with things that can. So the question is like, hey, can I automate this? That's a question I'm always asking myself. Can I use technology to help me do this, to prevent me from procrastinating? Whether it's
and Erik's been looking at technology to help him from an accountability standpoint since I first met him 14 years ago.
I like technology. It's good. I mean, technology.
Erik's actually ahead of his time when it comes to the technology that he uses.
It's so far ahead of my time that it's sometimes it's a waste of my time, right? But can we use technology to automate some form of our finances? If you're in a 401k plan, right? It's the contributions are automated, coming out of your check on a regular basis. You can even automate your increases on an annual basis. I want to increase my contribution by 3% per year. You can set it, you could forget it, and it's fantastic. There's even automation on investing in your 401k plans. You can say, hey, as I get older, I want my investment portfolio to get more conservative, and you can set that up. So automation is an incredibly powerful form of accountability. And then obviously, one that Xavier was talking about here is like people accountability. It's having someone that you are willing to humbly submit to and listen to their guidance, right? When Xavier walks into my office and tells me something that I need to do or something that I said I was going to do that I didn't, I stop and listen, because I have humbly submitted to his counsel, and I think that's really important. Are you going to disagree with me?
How you say that. No, I'm not going to disagree with you, but Jen's going to get upset with you if she hears this.
No, I humbly submit to Jen as well. She has power and authority to speak into my life, and I listen.
And I humbly submit to Maureen. So,
no, but I think that's an important part of accountability, and obviously as financial planners, we are our clients in a sense are accountable to us. We create and build a plan based off of things that they tell us are important to them. Sometimes they tell us straight up, this is important to me, this is what I want to do, and we help them get there. Sometimes we have to guide them to figure out what really they value. But at the end of the day, as a financial planners, that's a lot of what we do is, hey, we're going to hold you accountable to meet those financial goals, not just financial. It's those lifestyle goals. Like if good health is important to you and you tell me that, then we want to make sure that you can afford healthy food and gym membership. And, if taking vacations with your family is important to you, then I want to make sure that you spend your money prudently enough to where you have money to go on a nice family vacation. If you tell me you're afraid to retire because your parents are poor and they're living on Social Security and that's a concern of yours, within reason, we're going to make sure that we're funding that because that's something that you value. If you tell me that you're charitably minded and you want to support nonprofits and different missions and charities and whatnot, I want to make sure that your money is going towards those things that are important to you, that you value.
And, Erik, when talking about financial planners and how, we're being your accountability partner, it all goes back, and I'm going to it goes back to understanding your situation. I mean, we can't help you unless we actually know what your goals are. What are you trying to accomplish? So you've got to identify, again, and I'm going back to what we talked about earlier, identify what's important to you. And then come to the advisor, the planner, and he or she will be able to work with you to accomplish what you're trying to.
Yeah. Like money is something that I'm making up this statistic, okay? Compliance people, I'm making this statistic up. We spend 90% of our time dealing with money, maybe even more, right? We're working for it. We're fighting about it. We're spending it. We're stressing over it. So if that's the case, if money is such an important, and I'm not elevating money as like it's so important, like let's worship money. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that money drives practically everything we do. So to have it in its proper place, to make decisions that are consistent with our values is incredibly important because money has the ability to both provide for us, and it also has the ability to destroy us. And I think by procrastinating, just because you procrastinate doesn't mean money's going to destroy you, but you're procrastinating making decisions with a really important part of your everyday life, and that's your money. So I think sitting down, taking inventory, whether you meet with a financial planner or you're disciplined enough to do it on your own, people just don't take time to look at how they're spending money. They don't take time to look at, are they saving enough? But certainly a financial planner is going to be in a position to help you sort through that information and help you put together a plan. All right, I'm going to come off my soapbox. I get all excited talking about this stuff and people making good decisions about their money and whatnot. But I think that the takeaway, Xavier, from this episode is if you find yourself kind of, especially financially, feeling like, I should be doing something's not right, and you don't know exactly what it is, you might not necessarily be consciously procrastinating doing something with your money, but you're procrastinating the decision to sit down and figure out what's going on with your money. And I think that a financial planner, a financial advisor, particularly a certified financial planner, has the ability to sit down and really help you sort through those things. One of the things that I would say that separates us from other advisors is we do have an emphasis on really understanding the behavior side of money. I've done a lot of collaborative work in the past with the couples counselor, family therapist, really understanding just kind of how behaviors drive our decisions, particularly financial decisions. So sitting down, don't procrastinate the decision to meet with someone to talk about your money. Yes, it costs you money to meet with someone like us, but more often than not, the takeaway is going to put you into a position to make that back 10, 20, 30-fold over your lifetime by making good, wise decisions. So, y'all, thanks for taking your time listening to us. I appreciate it. I know money's not always the most exciting thing to talk about. I don't understand that, but Xavier, appreciate your bringing the topic for us to talk about.
Appreciate you guys, and I'm just like everyone out there, especially when I drive to work in the morning without the music or talk show,
talking to self,
talk radio, and self and I are talking.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Hey, you guys have a great day.
All right,
appreciate
y'all.
you guys.
Take care.